Okay, and then there's also another thing that I'm kind of leaving out with you guys. I'm realizing, I need to let you guys know that with logos, it's great to use transparencies to find those shapes that you want, but it's also a good idea to actually create these shapes and fill them in that are these shapes that are created from this overlay, such as this little triangle here, possibly like this little kind of slightly arced shape here in green, this shape here. It's actually a good idea to use the shape builder tool and actually try to build out these shapes so that they're not actually transparencies anymore, because logos really, standard for logo design is really, it might be changing with the times because, trends in logos have been changing, but for the most part, having a transparency in a logo design is not really correct. So, I mean, one thing I could do is I could do a Command C, Command V, and place this off to the side just to save it. And then kind of begin, hopefully, using that shape builder tool to kind of build out some of these shapes that we are missing. Because really, these aren't their own shapes in here, because it's actually just an overlay of color. We did use that effects panel here to create these overlays of color, and they're not actually punched out as their own shapes yet, which is really probably something that we should do. So in order to do that, we just need to get everything selected, and then hopefully we can just kind of click and create. And we might lose those colors, but that's why I kind of created that copy off to the side. Oh, I can't do it because I don't have that selected. So I did create those shapes. There are new shapes here and here and here and here. I might end up like simplifying that a little bit. I didn't do anything with this because there's actually no, I might get a little too busy with that. So I'm going to click and drag and make sure I'm selecting everything so that I can use that shape builder tool. There's actually kind of a cool little extra couple shapes here too that might be kind of fun to play around with. It might end up getting to be too busy and complicated, so that's something to kind of keep in mind. But we do have, those shapes built out now. Whether or not I actually want these extra ones in here, we'll see. So Command 0 to, well, let's zoom in just a little bit. So it did kind of end up changing the look of our logo, but we can always kind of reference back to, and I don't know if I can actually use the eyedropper tool. No, I can't. So one thing I could do, and this is kind of a workaround, but I did save out this original, logo. So, well, let's just do a Command C. I don't think my dog likes me yelling. Command C, File, New. I'm just going to create a whatever size document. I just need it in CMYK probably, and maybe high resolution. But this is actually not necessarily the correct size of artboard. I mean, I could just leave it. I guess I'll just bring it back down to 3x3. It's not hugely important. I'm mostly just using it as a workaround. So we'll Command V. And then I'm just actually going to save out. File, save as. Actually, no, let's do a file export. File export. Export as. And I'm just going to save out a maybe a PNG, just like my desktop, because this is just kind of a throwaway file. I can name it. I'm just going to use it for the color. So logo color, create that PNG to the desktop here, export, and high resolution. Maybe a transparent background, whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's not what I'm necessarily using it for. So I'll get back in here into my logo file, and then I will do a file place. And I'm going to bring in that PNG. And this is a flat image with the colors preserved. And actually now, if I do a kind of a zoom in, bring this a little closer. It's looking the same as this one does because it's the same logo, obviously, but it's a flat file that I now can select these shapes, and I can actually use the eyedropper tool now. You may have to use, your direct selection tool, but actually since nothing is grouped, I'm able to use the black selection tool. Or am I? Okay, here we go. So, and then we'll use this eyedropper tool and we will actually start sampling these colors. I might need to zoom in even more because there's so much detail going on here. So Command plus, that's not the one I actually want to zoom in on. So we will just start grabbing these colors from the PNG file. I could choose to make this a different color, but I don't think I'm going to because it's just going to start to get too busy. Way too busy, and we can't have that much detail in a logo typically. It's just not a great idea. I'm having a little bit of a gap going on here. I don't know if it will help if I actually, nope, that doesn't help. So I could try grabbing all of these shapes and pushing shift on my and holding down shift that whole time to grab each shape, and probably want to bring this with me potentially, since these are all, oh, I didn't grab this one in the, okay, since we did that shape builder tool, we have quite a few shapes to keep track of here, but I'm pushing shift down on my keyboard and clicking on each shape so that they're all selected at one time, and I'm just going to potentially, no, that's not helping. For some reason there's kind of a gap there. That might be something that I need to alter in the future here. And so we're going to click on this shape. We're just going to keep building out those colors. There we go. We'll do the same over here. You know, it's looking slightly different, the colors are, but really it's close enough that I'm happy with it. There we go. And you know, this color, I think what I'm going to do with this, how I'm going to treat this, I am going to bring in this point and make it the same color as this shape so that we still have that nice continuity going on, continuancy or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the word. And then we'll click on this and I am going to just make it the same color as this. So we do have a few extra little shapes in here that are kind of creating problems, I guess, in some ways. I will do a Command 0 to zero out. I'm going to still kind of maybe just keep this for, because I'm sentimental, maybe more than anything else. I can delete this one because I have the colors that I wanted from that file. And that was just a workaround. So, I mean, I created that new file. I placed that original the original logo with all the transparencies still in it, and then I exported out that PNG file, and then I brought it back into this file and sampled colors from it. And that's one way of kind of getting around this. I mean, obviously you guys are new to this, so but I just wanted to show you that I am aware that and I want you to be aware that transparencies in logos are not industry standard typically. So if we zoom in on this a little bit, we can use that shape builder tool to actually simplify this, because obviously I have a couple of extra shapes. So if I click and drag and create kind of to combine the shapes, I might actually have to, well, that actually kind of deleted my color that I had. So I'm actually I'm going to leave this one in here for, for quick reference. Sorry guys. Don't want this to get too confusing. Command 0, Command plus, I'm zooming in on the wrong one. But if I use my space bar, I can get my hand and I can move over to where I need to be and work on this logo to simplify some of these shapes. So just going to click and drag, making sure everything is selected. Click and drag over those shapes that I want to combine. And that shape is now one shape, but it did fill in its own color. We'll fix that later. These are fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. You know, these are all right. Let's do a zoom in and see if I can combine a couple shapes here. Okay, yeah, so I can. So we'll click and drag and make that one continuous shape, just to simplify the shapes contained within this logo, because it is getting awfully complicated. And I want to combine these two shapes to get these three shapes together. So what we'll do, we're still on this, so click and drag. So that kind of is a little bit of a problem because I actually didn't want to combine this this shape in with it. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do an option and subtract away this shape. Oops, did that work? Option, subtract. Not sure if that worked. So it did work. It gets a little confusing, but we're just gonna push shift, select all the shapes that we're trying to combine and work with, make sure they're all selected, because the shape builder tool will not work unless you have everything selected, and then we will just click and drag and click and drag. So now we have a lot cleaner forms to work with. And now I have like this little shape, like if I delete it, it's like just missing a chunk. So what we'll do is we'll shift click on these other shapes, and we are actually going to combine all of these into one piece. So now we can look around and we can see, okay, this is all one shape here. This is all one nice clean shape. Here, let's see. Let's just do, just for the sake of taking a look at this thing, click and drag and hold everything. And then if the shape builder tool is nice to do this with. So this is all one nice shape. This is all one shape. This is a shape. This is a shape. Here we have one here. So one thing here I'm noticing is this could be all one shape, these two blacks. So we can just click and drag those together to create one shape. So we have lost some of the color information, but luckily we do have that PNG file that we saved out earlier that we can, that we can reference when, you know, changing the colors here. So this color was not what we wanted. We wanted kind of this orangey pink color, which is actually really similar to this one. So I almost wonder if we shouldn't just combine these two things using the shape builder tool and just simplifying it even further, which I am liking. There's a little bit of a problem going on if I zoom in here. So this line is not quite meeting up where I would like it to. One thing we can do is we can zoom way in so we can get a look at these anchor points, these little dots along the shape's edge. And we can push shift and actually, if we are on this white arrow tool, and only if you're on this white arrow tool and you push shift, you can open that anchor point up to be white. And you can actually kind of, well, that didn't quite work. I think I might have the wrong thing selected here. You want to make sure that we have, okay. So part of the problem is, let's see. Now this is just getting confusing. Well, let's just keep moving on. I can fix that later, but that's one of the things about logo design is you kind of do want to like make sure everything's kind of clean. I think this is maybe grouped to these two shapes, so we'll use this direct selection tool. Oh, they're still grouped together, so selecting these separately. Actually, we don't need to do anything there because honestly, so that might be something to consider, is actually combining some of these shapes together to further simplify this shape. So dragging that line into, and we're losing color information when we do this, but luckily we have this file that we can reference. So we're really getting like nice clean shapes here. And then we can select it with the direct selection tool and click on that PNG file for reference for our colors. This is supposed to be black, so we'll just keep going on down the line. I'm running out of time on this video, unfortunately, but this is how you really should be setting up your file so that we can get those simple shapes. And obviously I'm going to have to resave everything. You know, I kind of went about this in a kind of a clunky way. And, you know, so I'm going to have to resave over all of my color files once again. But sometimes that's just what happens when you're designing these things. And another thing that I would do is I would create this in black and white, you know, like I said, and then resave over all those. Because like sometimes when you go about this, it's not a totally linear process, and sometimes you might forget a few steps along the way, but you can always end up in the place you need to be eventually just by saving over old files.